So it's a new month and PlayStation Plus has 3 new games available to all of its users. Callisto Protocol, however, is probably the most well-known one, so today I decided to play that since I've always wanted to.
Am I a joke to you?
And it's a horror game in October, so it's perfect. Today I'm going to be getting the Callisto Protocol Platinum Trophy. It consists of 27 trophies, which doesn't sound like a lot, and the game's length isn't very long either. The only catch is you have to play through the entire game on the hardest difficulty, which makes you susceptible to one-shot deaths in certain points of the story. Nonetheless, the game begins with that one dude from the Transformers movie as the main character we play as. Jacob and his friend are transporting cargo to this planet, which has a prison named Black Iron on it. The last time I heard of Black Iron, it was in a different circumstance, but we don't need to bring that up today. Anyways, after some arguing between the two smelly boys, we get our first mission. Investigate the cargo in the cargo bay because it is on alert, meaning something is probably going on. But it could also just be the schizophrenia again. You never know nowadays, do you? So we go to check it out and we only check on one crate, and guess what? It's fine. Which I guess that was all we cared about. But then on the way back, if you turn left, everything looks alright. But if you turn to the right, all hell looks like it has been unleashed onto the world, and something is definitely not right here. This reminds me of that one time I got to go to her phone and nearly everything didn't look right to me. So, yeah, we got the first trophy of the day already after we casually walked into the fire, which seems hazardous. We then got to peek on the people who have caused such damage, and they look like all the NPCs from a Call of Duty game just walking in behind each other, sniffing the butt hairs of the guy in front of him. Jacob smelled something funny, so he absolutely booked it to the door, and then opened the airlock to let out all the stink. Sadly, this Asian woman refused to be deported again and shot the window, which ended up destabilizing the entire ship, and we crashed onto the foreign prison planet. Gosh, I always hate when that happens. Oh yeah, and Jacob's friend, he doesn't look too good. We then got picked up by some prison worker people, and for whatever reason, they decided we get to go into the joint also. We then wake up in a cell, and I swear to God, if my roommate used to be an avid Eagles fan and weighs 650 pounds, I'm gonna kill him myself. I don't know what kind of prison they're running here, but I don't think the doors are supposed to work like that. I'm not complaining, but like, come on, at least try to act like I'm in trouble. So the objective is quite simple. Just escape. Now that's vague, I know, so I just wandered around until running into this nice Australian man who gave me a whole ass weapon and a trophy in return for me helping him out. Now I'm all for helping those get out of the closet when needed, but I draw the line at mass executions, which I was forced to do shortly after. Also, I fought this monster looking guy, and I swear this character model looks so similar to the Corey's monsters also. I guess the game devs also like passing around easy things, just like your girlfriend. Anyways, I got another trophy for absolutely demolishing the creature. Now, I thought I recognized it before, but now it just looks like a Taco Bell creation on the floor. I then ran back to my boy who finally got out. Round of applause. It must have been cool to actually escape a prison where you've actually been there for more than 13 seconds like myself. We have some good banter back and forth, but then the lights get turned on, and I now realize he isn't a girl, so I stopped the flirting and then went to beat up some enemy right next to me. After beating his meat, I then stomped him into the floor, which is this game's brilliant way of looting. I gotta admit, at least it's quick. And I love finishing fast, so that's not a problem with me.
What did he say?
The objective was to find the elevator, and I did. But then it broke, so I got stuck on this random floor, and it just so happened to be the solitary floor. And no, not the card game. Instead, it features angry robots and infected people running all around you in the ceiling. After I found a little battery thing, I opened this door and the entire place was just on fire. Even this guy was, so I did him the courtesy of smashing his head into the floor and freeing his soul to the afterlife. Gotta do my daily good deed, you know. I then got out of a vent and realized this isn't Among Us. Instead, I played Ring Around the Rosie with some enemies. I then made it to my actual objective, which was this cool little security room in the prison, and I even found a new cool electric stick to shove into the enemies' bodies. And finally, the power was back on, so I took this lift up to the big boy control room of the prison. Sadly, there was a guard still in there, and he was mad at me for trying to give him a hug, so he almost killed me. But I let in all the enemies to the room, and they swarmed him. So now we can assume he is dead.
Oh my God!
The next chapter is called Aftermath, and it begins with us standing in a hallway.
Nice.
But we end up running for our little lives toward the Aussie homie, and he slams the door shut barely in time, and we are finally reunited at last. Thank God I can stop edging now. This whole game, he basically is just a guy in the chair and sends us out to do actual work, which is what happened again on this chapter. But before that, I used the upgrade machine for the first time and got a trophy. I then also walked in on 2 fine individuals making out in a room. How love will always prevail. I then did a stealth kill for the first time, and in this game, these are completely silent, but I don't believe that for a second after hearing it.
That's what I'm saying.
We then walk up on this boss fight hallway and fight some really odd looking enemy for the first time. And this guy right here is going to be very annoying for us the rest of the game, seeing as he constantly spits at you while you are very far away and you can't really dodge it in a good manner. Even after not getting any more head today, the son of a bitch still tried to suck me off even without a head. Ladies, take note. Also, DM me on Instagram. Anyways, that thing died and I kicked it in its balls for good measure. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I got lost on this mission and ran in a circle for about 10 minutes, but we don't talk about that because I was just getting my cardio up. It could always be worse, however, and we walked right past a creature all locked up even in his new state of life. Now that's truly sad. A bit later, I made it to this room where we see a holographic video of one of the creatures going wild and taking out both doctors in the room. This totally feels like a fever dream I had once at the orthodontist. I also ran into my first combat section where I didn't just waltz on through and died more than once. The deaths in this game are absolutely brutal, so enjoy this Dark Souls death instead. After surviving that crap, however, we made it to another elevator, but it took us to the place we were supposed to be like half an hour ago. Sure, I'm a little bit late, but I was busy getting my eyes torn out of my skull. It's not my fault. So we made it back to home base and the Australian guy hasn't moved a single inch. I'm not surprised, but he gave me another trophy, so I can't even be mad at the dude. I also got a trophy right after for upgrading my big black stick for the first time. Wish I could say that in real life. The Australian man might have a cool voice, but for the love of God, my man wanted to kill me. And his only idea of sending me over to the other side of the prison was by using this little transport thing right into 3 different enemies, just gatekeeping the rest of my life right in front of me. This is what I imagine it feels like when my dog watches me eat food and never gets any. Anyways, I actually only died once right here, which is shocking because I remember feeling like I died at least 10 times. I then had to wait for the room to power up that I was in, and Lord have mercy, why is there so many torture devices inside? Like genuinely, what was the point of this room before this? I don't know, but this combat section broke me as a man. However, before dying inside, I did get a trophy for throwing enemies into the meat grinders, as you casually do on a Friday. I then ceased to exist twice and got another trophy for throwing enemies into the traps, which is one of the best ways to get rid of them in this game. And I sometimes forget that. I then went on to die 4 more times, and then got another trophy after that for picking up enemies just because I'm chill like that. And finally, I did it! Just kidding, I died another 4 times. So in total, I had to restart 10 times doing this, which is just great, but I did it, and I hope I added that up right, because if not, I'm actually an idiot. The whole point of all that was just so we could reach these high-level prison cells further into the prison. And I opened it up to see if the person was in there, but my guy simply failed to look hard enough because a petite Asian woman popped out and shoved me back in. Honestly, that out of context sounds like the start to... But anyways, her and our boy just leave me to die. And the next objective is to reach a train station so we can attempt to get out of this horrible prison full of monsters so we don't die. This next portion of combat featured some super annoying tiny things that just jump at you from the Shadow Realms, and I'm not sure how these even came to be, but it pissed me off greatly throughout this game's platinum. Anyways, after some traumatic moments on this chapter, we end up in the vents again and crawl our way to somewhat safety and get a cool view of the outside world to remind us we aren't quite dead yet. I didn't get any trophies for quite some time, but ended up on this combat encounter where I just, for the love of God, could not stop dying. Something about this game putting multiple men in a room at the same time and having me take them all at once really just didn't work out with me. I guess it's safe to say I can't have multiple dudes come at me at once.
What?
However, I got this code I needed to open some doors so I could try and leave this dang prison finally. And while I was putting it in, our boy Jacob glances upwards and sees there is like a whole nest of monsters just vibing in the rafters. And he also spots a very scary enemy we then get to fight numerous of right after that. These weren't actually horrible to fight though because they think they're stealthy and they don't really run at you. They more just crawl at a linear speed and let you touch them until they die. But as I was running away to the next area of the game, one nearly got my booty hole, but we got his hand instead, and Lord have mercy does he need a manicure. We then got to fight all those things again on this next part, and I will admit, I did fail once. Epic water slide mission. Yes, an entire part of this game we get to just slide down a big old sewage drain, but it's not like the childhood I remember because I smashed my face into a pillar and now have PTSD. And then flashbang! We made it into another epic room with an epic view of the entire universe, just at the cost of my eyesight at 2 AM. At the end of this mission, I struggled so much with trying to make it out of this weird courtyard thing, but hey, we got to see trees for the first time. Round of applause. Sadly though, combining these next 2 combat sections, I died a total of 20 times across them. The first one has a ton of those creepy crawly big guys from just previously, and then this big ass robot who I didn't even think you could kill, but I had to and got a trophy after I did. The next section was just super 3 aggressive enemies, and I could have done it so much faster if I had any sort of health or ammo left over, but I had essentially nothing, which was 0 health obviously. But we finally made it to our Australian homie who I guess didn't leave us quite as rudely as we thought he did. We then ran into a safe room and I got to get all suited up like it's Halloween. But as I walked away, behind me was the same guy who threw me into this prison, and he even got some makeup on for us. I always love it when they try. Anyways, he sent us into another mess like usual, and we begin the mission Lost, which describes my thoughts post 9 PM every night. We then get to see our boy Jacob nearly choke on his own cock before he releases the pressure in his helmet and can breathe again. Sadly, our homeboy wasn't so lucky and had an entire hole in his helmet and straight up just died on the spot. And to make it even worse, the Asian lady shows up, and I can't show it, but she just rips into the back of his neck and pulls out his chip not even a minute after he died. So the disrespect was real, but I felt even more disrespected on this next combat mission when I got my balls twisted over and over, making me truly resent this game even even more. But funnily enough, later on after we found the Asian lady again, she needed our help for once in the elimination of the locals. Sadly, our confrontation was limited and we didn't even get to exchange emails like the real ones do. Much later, as I wandered out the cold on 1 HP, the lady shows up again and has a whole ass vehicle. I have no clue where she found it, but I can't complain seeing as I nearly just died in the cold winter. We then go back to revisit our ship that we both contributed in crashing at the beginning of the game, and got a trophy. I then got another trophy a few minutes later when we reached a spaceship launch pad, I guess you could say. We are about to get that ship up there down here and escape, but then the prison warden just appears out of thin air and shoots it out of the sky, ruining our honeymoon plans. And we then begin to free fall like that one God of War meme. Basically, the rest of this game, we just have to sneak around and fight these dumbass enemies who can't see, but can hear literally anything you do. And they always come in packs of like 542, so it's basically impossible and just a giant pain in the ass to do the entire time. But the next trophy I got was for finding all the secret rooms in this game, which there's only 2, so it wasn't that much of a challenge. However, these rooms remind me of a certain World War II party. Anyways, the next trophy after that was one where I did a ton of stealth kills, and you still can't convince me those are silent. I then got another trophy for turning on the power in this place, and this game truly is just a rated R Among Us the more I think about it. We then got to ride on this train thing and do a super fun and action-packed fight sequence, with the end of it having a literal boss fight with this Alabama ass-looking enemy who splits into 2. But once you use literally all of your ammo on it and it dies, you get a trophy for killing it. I then got a trophy for fully upgrading one of my guns, which was a huge help in the end game of this platinum. We are reaching near the end of the story now, so I decided to try and do some combat trophies while I was still able to, so I could try and get the platinum done in one single playthrough of the game, since I thought that would be neat. So I did just that and got 3 trophies back to back to back, which hasn't happened in a while. I then also got one for reaching this lab, which has a ton of alien monster things in it. And we find this super dangerous bioweapon that we have sort of been after all game. And right after that, we have a fight with the prison guy again. I don't know how, but he finally hit puberty and he's absolutely ginormous now. Sadly, this fight was super underwhelming and the Asian lady didn't even die. But we did have a heart-to-heart and she looks like she's about to become a monster. Or she has AIDS. It's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't really matter though, because a minute later, a robot jumps us and throws us back into our original prison cell, truly bringing everything full circle. And nearing the end of the game, I finally found all the collectibles, which I didn't show me picking any of these up all video long, since they are usually super gruesome and you pull them out of people's necks typically. But that trophy popped and I was so happy I didn't miss it. And finally, we have reached the final part and area of the game. The prison warden guy sort of just chats our ear off for a while until unleashing that one dude we have been teasing all game onto us. This fight lasts quite a while and he ends up completely transforming into an unrecognizable being. I didn't find too much difficulty with this fight, however, since I had 80 pistol bullets just ready to be unleashed and I beat him easily. We then extracted a cure from him, which he had apparently, and gave it to the little Asian girl to save her. Sadly, the warden asked us not to and he was angry, so he began a explosion countdown in the facilities. So, like you would, we started to run away and made it to the escape pod room. And without thinking, Jacob throws the girl in, truly becoming a simp. Now, if it was me, I would have just shot her and got it myself, but survival of the fittest, I guess. So Jacob gets left behind, and then the game basically ends with 3 trophy pops since I beat it on the hardest difficulty and completed the story, and then got the platinum trophy. This game was honestly a ton of fun and a super quick platinum, so I would actually recommend you play it, and definitely not just because it was a huge flop at launch.